China's priority in its relationship with the EU. How would you describe it? Or what would you describe it as being?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Actually, I think my time is very limited. I just very briefly respond. Firstly, I think in the coming 4 years, Trump will return. China-Europe cooperation faces more opportunity. So I think strengthening cooperation with China is in line with Europe's long-term interest. We Chinese sincerely hope that China and Europe can cooperate like friends. But the problem is nowadays the EU positions China as a cooperation, competition, and rivalry, which not only severely restrict the EU's foreign policy, but also put Europe in an increasingly cold position in international stage. That's the first point I want to say. Second point is about the Ukraine crisis. I know I hear a lot of complaint from Europe to China, but I agree with Mr. Ambassador right now. You're talking about the China's Russian policy, and also China has a very good relationship with Ukraine. And I have to say that I think that European friends need to have an objective understanding on China's position on Ukraine crisis. I know in the past 3 years, the European economy has been affected by the Ukraine crisis, but it is clear that this war was caused by the NATO's unlimited eastward expansion, and more clearly by the United States' offshore balancing strategy. So this war interrupted the process of the European independence, raised energy prices in Europe, and caused severe inflation in Europe. That's the second point I want to share. The third point I want to share is that right now the EU ambassador talking about the China and the EU bilateral trade. I think that China and Europe has a population of about 2 billion. China-Europe trade is sustainable, long-term sustainable. Firstly, China and Europe trade has characteristics of complementarity and mutual benefit. Second is we have the China-Europe trade such an efficient and green logistic channel, new channel for bilateral trade. Third reason is that, of course, we mentioned a lot that we have the environmental, climate, green finance, Belt Road Initiative. We have a lot of the new opportunity for trade sustainability. Final things I want to share is that because right now there are a lot of speakers talking about climate change. I think I have to say the climate responsibility. I think China, in the past 5 years, China has been the country with the fastest carbon emissions reduction in the world. We contribute the biggest carbon emission reductions responsibility in the world. That's true. Although China, we admit China is a country with the highest carbon emissions, but China is also the world's largest factory, producing over 30% of the world's goods. Don't forget, carbon emissions now are calculated based on the principle of production values. If calculated according to the consumption principle, China per capita carbon emissions are only 1/4 of those in the United States and 1/3 of most of the countries in Europe. So China may not be the largest carbon emitter. So for that, I think we should observe China objectively. Well, very quickly, last point regarding about the degree of the openness in Chinese market. I think indeed the competition in the Chinese market is extremely strong, and the competitiveness of Chinese interpreters is becoming increasingly strong nowadays. And in China, I don't know whether you know, in China, the average survival time for a new company, for Chinese new company, is only 2 or 3 years. So it's very obvious that for a European company investing in China do nowadays face the competition, very serious competition from the Chinese market. But this does not deny China's opening up policy. In fact, Chinese market welcome European investment very, very much. And on the other hand, China also want to invest more in the Europe. So both sides should open up their market more. So this is my opinion. Thank you so much.
Thank you.